Today we have Mr. Jayadeva Ranade with us, who is an expert on China and also the president of Center for China Analysis and Strategy. So we will have a detailed discussion with him on the fragile relationship between the two Himalayan giants. Thank you, sir, for sparing your time for us.
A pleasure.
Sir, it's nearly been a year since the Galwan Valley clashed. After rounds of deliberations and de-escalation, how much disengagement have we seen in the Eastern Ladakh? What is the present position there?
From the reports that one sees, there has been very little forward movement as far as disengagement is concerned, except in the Pangong Tso area, the few baby steps that took place. There has been nothing more. In fact, the mobilization remains as strong, and the reports that one sees in the Chinese military media indicates, in fact, a strengthening in the firepower and presence of the People's Liberation Army in Ladakh.
All along, India has reiterated that it has had the upper hand in the negotiations. Yet the Chinese side remained belligerent. Why is that so?
The Chinese, here I must say that as far as India is concerned, it has consistently sought to engage the Chinese in a peaceful negotiation to sort out issues. And the Chinese, on the other hand, have often, I would say, have a tendency to first use muscle as the first resort. So what we have seen here is a sudden appearance or the decision by the Chinese troops to march along the borders, and had it not been for a rapid counter move by our forces and a build-up in this sector, I think things could have gotten more out of hand. The second thing is that the Chinese have laid claim to Ladakh. They are insisting that Ladakh is part of their sovereign territory. So that position is unlikely to change. The third is that they also claim other territories, which we all know, like Arunachal Pradesh, etc. And with Xi Jinping in power, the current president of China, he has said that he will try and reclaim these territories. And he has given certain benchmarks. So I think we are going to see an obdurate China in this matter, a China that is unwilling to negotiate or yield any ground. And I personally expect this standoff might continue. One indication is, of course, the Chinese media, which has been extremely critical. And the second is the absence of any talks for quite a while now on the border between the army commands.
Sir, India has been ramping up infrastructure along the borders. Yet there have been reports of Chinese developing settlements along the borders. What seems to be their strategy, sir?
The Chinese, in fact, since 2017, started this program of building what they call the Xiaokhang border defense villages, or model well-off border defense villages. There are 628 villages that they propose to construct along the borders. They call them their watchtowers, eyes and ears, watch posts. And what they're doing are three things. One, they're repopulating these villages and therefore the border areas, where there used to be one family comprising 2 to 3 people, or 2 families. They're now expanding those and getting 20 to 30 families. They're also breaking the social cohesion of these places in Tibet by bringing in populations from elsewhere, from other parts or from northern Tibet, also to populate these villages. The third is they're doing it also under the poverty alleviation program, and they have given them, or they have built better housing, metalled roads, provided electricity, Wi-Fi, etc. Under the poverty alleviation program. And of course, these villages will be the eyes and ears, as they say, the frontier guard posts for China. Now, in the process, where there is a possibility for them, where the borders are undefined, they may try and set up these border villages there. And there are reports that one has come up just on the border between Arunachal and Tibet, that is in the Ningxia prefecture of theirs. I'm not sure exact location, but those are the reports. The second is in a place bordering Bhutan and Tibet. So these two have come up in such contested areas, but the others are being built inside Tibet Autonomous Region's borders.
So what should be India's strategy to counter such measures?
You see, it's a difficult strategy. After all, to put it frankly, ordinary individual will seek to better his living conditions and his economic prospects, his career prospects. So those living in border villages have a tendency to migrate to cities or the bigger towns. The same thing happens in China, which is why they are building these villages and giving them a lot of incentives to stay there by making them modern, by giving all the conveniences, etc. It's a massive program costing a lot of money. In India, we will have to work out systems by which we can develop these border villages and try and create employment opportunities, at least nearby, if not in those villages, and which means we'll have to improve communications, not only transport, but also electricity and Wi-Fi, etc. So there will have to be a comprehensive long-term effort, but it will be capital intensive because you have to motivate the people, particularly the younger people, to stay there, have a better life, have better opportunities. And there are ways in which it can be done. And I think if we are not already thinking about them, we need to accelerate those programs.
So there is a growing Chinese activity around the Indian waters. And in fact, China has gained control of the Colombo port due to Sri Lanka's inability to pay off its debt. How does this pose danger to India and what should New Delhi do about it?
Well, it's Sri Lanka is our neighbor. It's very close to us. A large part of Sri Lanka shares the same ethnic population as ours. But the apprehension is that with China now having got rights in the Colombo City Port Development Project, I think a large chunk of the territory has been basically handed over to them to manage. China will utilize those facilities for its PLA Navy to either dock there or come there. It could also engage in some other activities. I remember many years ago when Musharraf was still in power in Pakistan, he had posted an ISI officer who was in fact focused on India operations as their ambassador to Sri Lanka. And that gentleman had started creating cells there which were not or which were inimical towards us. The Chinese also have a very close relationship with the Pakistanis. They have intelligence cooperation and sharing with the Pakistanis. So that's an additional point that is of concern. The second, as I mentioned to you, Chinese ships coming there, Chinese Navy ships coming there. And I would not be surprised if the Chinese also try and set up electronic eavesdropping posts there. So these are factors that are of concern to us. And I'm sure that we are taking steps to counter them.
Sir, what is the end game of Chinese expansionist maneuvers?
China's aim is very simple, Anish. Actually, it is to rival, if not surpass, the United States. That is their end goal. And they have, very unusually, set a deadline for it also. They have said by 2049, which is the 100th year of the founding of the People's Republic of China, they would like to be a power with pioneering global influence. In other words, either to rival or surpass the United States. That is their stated objective. In the process, they will obviously be encroaching on the strategic and territorial spaces of a number of other countries along the way. And the first step, before they can aspire to challenging and surpassing the United States, is to establish their dominance in this region, in the Asian region. And that is the process that we are seeing today. So I don't see any easing up in the Chinese efforts.